Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go. So ready for rapid fire because I've been thinking about this one all day long.
I've just been sitting here. I was looking at the remaining questions that are in the queue. As always, there are some questions from the mailbag that we will take over with us to rapid fire because I think that they are very good rapid fire. There's a lot of lawn questions actually.
Like get off my lawn
queue right now. No,
oh,
even though that would be right up your alley. But
exactly, get off my lawn, kid.
So ESPN.com has an article with lingering questions for each of the top 25 teams, is what it's called. The question they have for Notre Dame is, are there any true stars at wide receiver? This kind of goes with what we were talking about just a second ago. So they mention how the Irish have not had a receiver with 500 plus yards since 2021. It's been a while. Scale of 1 to 10. How confident are you Notre Dame will have a 500-yard wide receiver this season? This takes running backs and tight ends off the board. We're talking strictly wide receivers here.
You realize I'm the worst possible person to ask this question to, right? I'm just saying.
So this is 12 for you, is what you're saying?
I think that Notre Dame has a very good stable of receivers. I think there is in my eyes, there's a clear-cut number one, and Salty's going to be happy, but it's Jaden Greathouse. I feel like even though the ball is going to be spread out to said running backs and tight ends, I do think Notre Dame has an opportunity to have a 500-yard receiver. I will give this an 8. Okay. So I'm leaving some room, but I do think they have the ability to make that happen this year.
I'm going to put it at a 9, just as you said, to leave some wiggle room because we were both very confident about a lot of things regarding the receivers last year.
I know.
None of it came true, and
none.
80% of the room is gone now at other schools. Yeah. So I will leave at least some wiggle room, but I'm going to put it at a 9. But the main reason why is you have a different offensive coordinator with a different offensive mindset and philosophy coming in. LSU, where Mike Denbrock obviously was last year, had 2 1,000-yard receivers plus another guy who was also over 500 yards. Malik Neighbors had 1,600 yards. Now, Malik Neighbors was obviously a first-round draft pick and very good, all that different kind of stuff. But look, there's going to be a lot more 11 personnel this year. There's probably even going to be a lot more 10 personnel, which is like, 10 personnel? What is that? That's like a completely foreign concept, right? Like, my point is, it's going to look a lot different without the extra tight end on the field all the time. So that's naturally going to lend itself to receivers having more opportunities to catch passes just to begin with. So, the next question was going to be your top 2 candidates. You've already given yours, and I'm just going to go with Chris Mitchell and Jaden Greathouse as my top 2, and I would put Faison at number 3 on my list.
Chris Mitchell would have been my next one as well, and then by Faison too. All of those guys have the ability to be 500-yard receivers, and I do think that Mike Denbrock is going to stretch the field a little bit more. So I think you're going to see more chunk plays in the passing game as well. So you're going to have an opportunity to get there a little bit better.
Correct. Tommy says, if they don't have a single 500-yard receiver this year, things went horribly wrong, or they will have literally been running for 15 yards per rush and average 400 rushing yards per game. Yeah, and
Michael's not far behind with his comment, too. I want to bring that one up.
Go ahead and throw it up there.
Yeah, if you're a Notre Dame fan and don't believe that Notre Dame receivers will have 500 yards, then you have Tommy Rees offensive syndrome and believe that the scan offense is going to be productive. The last time they had one, though, was 2021. And who was the offensive coordinator in 2021?
Tommy Rees.
Okay, just checking.
Yep. I know. It's easy to forget that kind of stuff at times, right? Yeah. But now let's not forget, though, that even in 2021, Michael Mayer was still the guy who actually led the team in yardage and receptions.
Yeah, I don't think that will be the case. I do not believe that a tight end will lead the team in receiving.
I agree with that for sure. Okay, so we're at the Brian Kelly portion of the show. It's been a long time since we'd had an opportunity to do any BK bashing, but here we are. So Brian Kelly did a sit-down interview with Jacques Doucette of WAFB Television in Baton Rouge.
Of course, his name is Jacques down in Baton Rouge. Like,
that's right.
Wow, cliche.
I actually met Jacques a few years back.
Did
in
you?
Omaha. Yeah. Part of that. Mixed it up with the Baton Rouge media gaggle down there.
Yes, you did.
At the College World Series.
But you had good reason to mix it
when
up.
our friend Pulmonary was there.
Yes.
That's right. So Doucette asked Kelly about his defensive line recruiting. And I know people have, a lot of people have seen some of this and been talking about it. Here is Brian Kelly's answer.
Interior D lineman, where are you right now with that?
Great picture.
Well, I think I made it pretty clear in a number of the press conferences that I had that we were in the market in recruiting in the transfer portal looking for defensive linemen. It hasn't fared very well, quite frankly, because, we're selling something a little bit differently. And that is we want to recruit. We want to engage, build relationships. We want to develop, retain, and have success. We're not in the market of buying players, and unfortunately, right now, that's what some guys are looking for. They want to be bought. And look, I understand NIL is part of this, and we have an incredible collective. We have very, very generous opportunities around the greater Baton Rouge area for NIL opportunities. So they are here, but we're not going to go out and buy players. That's not what this is about. This was never about that. We will develop you. We will get you ready for the next step, as we did with Jaden Daniels, as we did with Malik Neighbors, as we did with Brian Thomas. We developed 3 defensive linemen that all got drafted this year, and we'll do that again. But if you're just looking to get paid, you're looking in the wrong place. If you like all the things that we do here in developing our players, bringing you into a championship program, playing in front of the best fan base in America, playing for championships, and having an opportunity for NIL, you should be a Tiger. But if you just want to get, paid, this is not the place for you.
All right, Vince.
Oh, boy.
There it is. Tee off. What do you think?
I feel like I've heard this someplace before. And I'm trying to remember where that could
it have been?
You know what? That's right. It was at Notre Dame from 2016 on. That's when it was. Okay. Whew. It was mind-boggling me there for a little while.
We're shopping down a different aisle, Vince.
Oh.
We're shopping down a different aisle.
It's May 8th today, okay? And we can assume that this was recorded before May 8th, okay? He's already making excuses for lack of success in the fall. He's already making them. Well, we do it differently down here, and we don't like to pay players, and we don't want... Yes, you do. Yes, you do. They just don't want to play for you. You pay players just like anybody else in the SEC. Stop it. He's already making excuses for why they're not going to be good in the fall.
Setting himself up, giving himself a fallback excuse.
He does
That's
this
absolutely
every
right.
year, Sean, and it will be a consistent thing with him from now through the season. Through the season, he will blame the defensive line the rest of the way. Well, people didn't want to come here. They don't want to be Tigers. They don't want to do it like we do it. Come on, man. Like, just stop with the excuse making.
According to On3, they put out a ranking of an NIL Power 5 ranking in terms of the schools that spend the most. Texas number 1, 19.9 million.
Whew.
LSU comes in at number 11 with $10.1 million in NIL. Notre Dame, by the way, 15th at 8.6. So really not that far behind. But you're absolutely right. It's just a built-in excuse. If things go wrong, Brian Kelly has something to fall back on.
Yes.
Yep.
Anthony. And then on the other side, according to Anthony, and he's 100% correct, it says BK is rigging the game to either outperform expectations and garner praise or use it as an excuse for underperforming. That you nailed this thing 100%.
Under promise, over deliver.
Yes, under promise, over deliver. That is his game, baby. If anybody's been paying any attention, that is his game. Man, this team's not good. People don't want to be a part of what we're trying to do. We're just, we're going to see we're going to coach them up. We're going to coach them up. We're going to do the best we can. And then, when they go out and win, let's say they win 10 games, it's, Brian Kelly, SEC Coach of the Year. Man, he really did something with nothing down there in Baton Rouge. Nothing? Come on now. You're spending $10 million a year on NIL and you got nothing? Come on, man.
And I mean, look, I haven't looked at their defensive line room, but you can't tell me if they wanted to get somebody, it didn't have to be a top of the line defensive lineman. You can't tell me that there was nobody they could have brought in out of the portal. Again, based on what they've got, NIL opportunities and everything else. It's just the same old with Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Is all it is.
Doesn't change. No matter what color he's wearing, it doesn't change. He's already setting up the LSU fans for a crappy season. And then when he over-delivers, all of a sudden he's Coach of the Year. Home Depot Coach of the Year down in Baton Rouge. Family.
Salty wants to know if Marcus Freeman will exceed Brian Kelly's years and win total at Notre Dame. This is a tough one.
This is a tough one.
And this is something I've kind of been thinking about for a while, just like what this is going to look like for Marcus Freeman.
Because look, at the end of the day, BK was here for a long time. Yeah. I mean,
12 years.
12 years, yeah.
12 years and a lot of wins.
And that is not – 12 years is not normal, folks. And anybody that follows any kind of college football would agree with that. I mean, 12 years is not normal. And so, what if Marcus Freeman has a national championship or two to his name? Does he really want to stick around for 12 years with the headache of everything that goes along with being the head coach at Notre Dame? I don't know that he does. As a fan, I hope he stays until, they dig a hole for him and you can just roll him in. Like, that would be fantastic. I would love for him to be here for years and years and years and years. The problem is with college football these days, it is very, very taxing. And to be here that long is going to be very, very tough. And look, say what you want to about Brian Kelly, and I just got done, lambasting him. He won a lot of games at Notre Dame. There are a lot of double-digit wins seasons that he had at Notre Dame. He accumulated a lot of wins, man. And it's going to be tough to reach that win total unless he's here for a decade plus. And that's going to be a tall order. So I would say right now, I would say no and no.
I would have to think so as well. But, you do factor in how young Marcus Freeman is already. Sure. I think a big question is going to be, he's already performing at an exceptional rate, even though maybe it's a little bit, it would be at least the standard coming, he took the baton.
Yeah.
And, even though you lost to Marshall and Stanford in year one, the net result out of the thing was a 9-4 season. And last year it was a double-digit win season. So he's already got 19 wins in his first 2 years. That's more than Brian Kelly had.
That's true.
In his first 2 years. And the guy is younger and he's recruiting at a higher level. One of the questions for him going forward is going to be, because these assistants are going to continue to matriculate and get better jobs. The more success Marcus Freeman has, is he going to be able, to continue I think he's going to be able to attract high level assistants, but is he are they going to be able to continue to perform at that level? But ultimately, I just think because of the job and you were alluding to, it ages you at some point. Being the head coach at Notre Dame ages you. And whatever you thought about Brian Kelly, 12 years was still a lot. It was more combined than I think his previous three, at least two predecessors combined.
Predecessors. I gotcha. I was saying his stops, but yeah. His, than what they had at Notre Dame. So I agree. I think that ultimately, because of the job that it is and, everything that goes into it, the odds say no, because Brian Kelly did end up being the all-time winningest
head coach at Notre Dame. And regardless of what you think about that, again, like he's still the all-time winningest coach. So the odds say that it's not going to happen.
The funny part about all of this is Joe says he could be here for 12 years and still be in his early 50s.
Right.
No, he'll be in his 40s, actually. Because
that's true. He would still be in his 40s.
He's 38 years old right now.
Insane. That's
and
insane.
9 years from now, he'll be 47. So he won't even be in his 50s. He'll be in his 40s, Joe. So your point is even better than you thought it was. So he's a young dude.
No kidding. Yeah, Josh says he also doesn't think he'll have a 4-8 season.
God, I hope not.
I don't either. But
I don't think we ever thought Brian Kelly was going to have one either.
Right.
I mean, there was dissension in the ranks going into the 2016 season that a lot of reporters and people on the inside knew, but nobody would have predicted 4-8. No, nobody. I don't care how much dissension and quarterback issues and all of these. Nobody would have predicted 4-8 with the teams that they lost to. No chance.
Ghost X asked this in the chat. We talked about this, I think, on the Friday Rapid Fire show. Who'll be the first Notre Dame player off the boards not named Ben Moore? Oh, he says not named Ben Morrison in 2025. Well, I think it's going to be Riley Leonard, even with Benjamin Morrison.
Yes, Riley Leonard, absolutely, 100%. Yep, that's an easy one. Now, the good question would be not named Ben Morrison or Riley Leonard.
Right.
I think that's the good question that needs to be asked. Who's that going to be?
As of right now, my answer would be either Riley Mills or Xavier Watts.
Okay.
As of right now.
Riley Mills is getting a lot of...
Because it's not going to be a lineman. None of the linemen are at that point. So
true. I'm trying to think now. Howard Cross is getting a lot of love, too, in some of these projections. Which is a little surprising with his size. We'll see kind of how that goes.
That's the only reason I wouldn't put him ahead of Riley Mills is because of his position and his relative lack of size. I think that hurts him going to the NFL in terms of being someone who would be considered that high because of the position he plays and the size that he has.
I will say that I think would be Xavier Watts. If he has another season like he did last year, I mean, he's the defensive player of the year nationally. If he has another season like that, he'll go pretty high as well. So I would say he'd be the third guy off the board.
So Notre Dame men's basketball, I don't know if you saw this, they're reportedly going to take part in a Thanksgiving week tournament in Las Vegas next season called the Players Era Festival. So the event is going to include $1 million NIL payouts for each of the 8 teams that'll participate. Players will have future earnings opportunities as well through long-term NIL contracts. So what do you think of this kind of basketball event that Notre Dame is reportedly going to play in next November?
I think this is the wave of the future, man. Like, I would use this in my recruiting pitch if I was Notre Dame, which obviously didn't work in the transfer portal for a big. But I think this is the wave of the future. And I think that if you're going to have NIL, this is what NIL is supposed to be right here. You're on the roster already. We're going to go to a tournament that pays you money in NIL, like in endorsement deals and things like that. I think that's what NIL is supposed to be. And I love this because they're doing it the right way.
As part of the deal, some of the details on this, the players, they're not just going to show up and get the money. They would actually have to participate in some off-court activities while they're out there, which is great.
Love it.
Probably, like go to a children's hospital, maybe, or whatever. It is Vegas, so who knows what those activities would be. But there will be some things that go with it. And the team that ends up winning the event would get even more, like another $1 million potentially to split up in NIL opportunities. But they're also going to go to these events where it sounds like where they can actually network with companies to get other NIL opportunities. And it just feels like if you're hosting one of these events in November and December, like Maui Invitational has been around forever. Pick your event, like the Atlantis thing that they've been doing for the last few years. It just feels like all of these events should have this. And honestly, it feels like this is something that the Final Four should easily be able to set up, because everyone, once you get to the Final Four, all these big sponsors want to be a part of the Final Four. And what's a better reward for the 4 teams that make it to the end of the rainbow than to have NIL opportunities there for them as well? You're the 4 best teams remaining in the nation. Like, there should be some of this stuff out there as well. It just feels like they're setting the template with this kind of event for NIL opportunities going forward. And by the way, Alabama, Houston, Oregon, Rutgers, San Diego State, and Texas A&M are the other 6 schools that are on board. They are apparently still working on the 8th and final team that would be a part of it as well. So it sounds like a really cool opportunity for Notre Dame to be involved with next season. Like Anthony says, preseason NIT. Why not? Like, all of these different events. There's all these different tournaments that take place. Like, everything should have an NIL component attached to it, it feels like. Fill in the blank. Brian Curtis speculated on his Press Box podcast that Tom Brady may have done his Netflix roast to basically put all the negative stuff that anyone could potentially say about him, like, get it out there now. Like, everyone has their, just get it out there in the atmosphere now before his TV career begins on Fox when the NFL season begins this fall. That theory is blank.
Not terribly far-fetched. A lot of times you bring up these theories on this show, and I'm like, what? Like, my mind is still blown away by the Top Gun,
the Reddit
Maverick
Top Gun theory.
Like that. Still can't wrap my mind around that one. This one, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, to be perfectly honest with you. It's showing that he's human, and, you can throw some jabs at him, and it's all, whatever, and you get it all out there. I mean, the fact that he's like, that the NFL spent $20 million on, investigating the Deflate Gate. All they had to do is give him the $20 million. He would have admitted it. Like, I think that's fantastic. I think that's hilarious, because we're far enough away from it now that nobody gives a crap. You know what I mean? And so I think there's some validity to the theory. I don't think that he's like, now what can I do to make sure I get all the negative stuff out? Like, I don't think it was that kind of a thing. Right. But I think it's part of it.
But at the very least, even if he wasn't consciously thinking about it, he definitely accomplished that by doing it. And I had never really considered this before, but I mean, he is going to be under a lot of scrutiny once he goes to Fox. And what's Tom Brady never really been, for the most part? Human. That was a word that you just mentioned, right? He's like been this basic. Yeah, he's basically been a machine his entire career, just cranking out Super Bowl wins. And, he showed that he could, at the very least, sit up there and put on the fake smile the whole time while, people are taking shots about his ex-wife and, everything else, Deflate Gate, like the one, his one trigger moment was definitely the Robert Kraft thing, which I found was interesting. Is like,
of all the
talking
things
about Robert Kraft's massages anymore, but
of all the things,
I think it's a very interesting theory. And again, like, he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny this fall once he gets on TV. And now it's like the worst thing that could be said about Tom Brady was just said this weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like, I find it interesting that Giselle took offense to all the things that were said about her and the marriage and everything. Look, it's a roast, right?
Exactly.
No holds barred in a roast. Like,
and you divorced him. So guess what?
That's right.
You don't get a say. It's not how it goes. It's not how it works.
Yep. Interesting. Thanks for the super chat, Josh. He says, late to the show, just wondering where you would rank this year's women's basketball team in Notre Dame history. Excited for this season.
This past one?
Like, I think he's talking about the one coming up, that's loaded now. I mean,
who knows?
We think they're going to be really good, but they haven't done anything yet. I mean, obviously, if they win a national championship, they're one of the 3 best teams ever, right? But if they don't win a national championship, there were plenty of other teams that didn't, but got to national championship games. Like, the teams you talk about and the ones you hold up there are the ones that win the titles. The others 100%. Were just really good teams that didn't get it done.
I mean, look, based on the roster, this should be one of the best teams that Notre Dame's ever put on the floor, right? I mean, top to bottom should be, but they got to go out and produce. I mean, there's plenty of should be teams out there that don't get a national championship or a World Series or an NFL title or whatever, right? So they've got to go out and do it. But on paper, this is one of the best teams ever. On paper,
Absolutely.
but they don't play the game on paper, Sean.
No, they don't, Vince. They play it on the court.
That's why they play the game.
So Tommy asked the question.
Oh, boy.
Where did it go? He's actually asked a lot of questions.
Probably
But he
towards
said,
the
what
bottom.
was the Reddit Top Gun theory? And Salty actually answered it for us already. The theory is that in the sequel, Maverick died in the early plane crash, was in purgatory for the rest of the movie, having to make amends with everyone in his life that he had ever wronged. That's basically good summary there, Salty.
that was.
Salty was paying attention last week.
He was.
But that was the theory that was posed on
That was
Reddit.
too much for me. That was too much. No, it's not your question that I had an issue with, Tommy. It was the fact
It was
that
the theory
we had to
itself.
talk about the Top Gun theory again because I just can't wrap my mind around it. So
Okay, so we have a lot of questions about cutting our grass.
really,
Joe wants to know, do you cut your lawn a different way every time?
I go every other. I'm in every other, straight and then
Diagonal?
diagonal. No, I don't do diagonal.
You
Got
don't
too
do
many
the
jungle gyms and whatnot, so it's either vertical or horizontal.
Yeah.
But I vary.
My front yard, I typically try to do it a different direction each time. Like you
Yeah.
said, straight one time, diagonal the next. My backyard, because it's got stuff back there as well, I just cut it, get it done.
Yeah.
And
I may experiment with a little diagonal in the front
That's it.
yard because it is kind of like a postage stamp as far as like, the size and things. So I think that would be a little bit easier. The backyard there's just too much crap back there. It would be
Yep.
too much of a pain in the neck.
Tommy wants to know if we bag up the grass clippings or just let them fly where they may.
I used to be a mulcher and I really enjoyed my mulcher. I bagged it one time and my wife was ecstatic and I've had to bag ever
You're
since. Stuck forever.
Doesn't that take forever?
It takes forever. And I got a new mower.
You have to stop all the time.
I got a new mower. I love my mower. It was awesome. But then the deck cracked. And so I had to get a new one. And I was kind of pressured into getting this particular mower. And the bag is smaller than my bag that I like, almost half the size.
Mhm.
I am stopping all the time
Yeah.
with this new mower. And I hate it.
I would be out there
hate
for 3 hours
Yeah.
if I stopped and did the bagging or like
It's
whatever.
terrible.
And I waited about 5 days too long to mow my yard the first time, and so the grass was pretty tall. And so what
Yeah.
I've dealt with since is I have a lot more like dead grass laying around than I usually have, and I haven't been able to push it anywhere. So it's like
right.
part of me wants to bag some of it to get it off the yard because I'm tired of looking at all the dead grass laying around, but at the same time it's just like I don't care enough. Because like I'm not in a big subdivision with other people around to see what it looks like. I'm just sitting out here in the country a little
I
bit.
definitely have competition from my both of my neighbors. And
Yeah. See,
my other problem is that I'm very, very busy and I don't get to the lawn as often as I should. And so if I mulch it, it just leaves too much behind. You know what I mean? And because I let it go too long.
Yeah.
So in the prime of the summer, I've got to hit it like every 3-4 days if I want to mulch it. And that doesn't usually occur.
Yeah.
So
I need some big wind to come up and like
Just
dry
take it
thing
all.
and just blow everything
right.
away. And that's,
Yeah.
like the leaves are another story in the fall because I actually didn't do any leafing last year
Really?
because we had enough wind that it kind of took care of it. But
Wow.
what's typically happened is, because I've got the mower, the riding mower, and
Yeah,
you
jealous
suck
of
them
that.
all up into your thing. And but my neighbor, older guy, never does anything with his leaves, and so I'll do mine, and then his end up blowing
They
in
end
my
up on your
and
yard,
then I've got to do
yes.
more.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
Yeah, we actually just kind of blew some of the remaining leaves off our landscaping, and so I kind of mulched that up when I mowed the other day. Do you care about perfect lines when you cut your own grass?
I care about the outcome. In the moment, I want to get it done. But I do really enjoy going upstairs, grab a shower after you're done mowing, right?
Then you look outside.
There's a little window. It's up. It's a story up, right? And there's a little window in the bathroom.
Yep.
You hit the bathroom before you jump in the shower, and you're staring out the window because the window's right above the toilet, right? And I'm staring out the window, and I love looking at those lines, baby. Like that is just a job well done. Yep. You know what I mean? I got to tell you, man. There's nothing there are few better feelings in the world when you're a homeowner than looking at a fresh cut lawn with nice lines. That's what my life has come to now.
I can think of a few, but
it's fair too.
So another Tommy, if neither of you had kids to cut your grass, would you prefer to get it done professionally, pay the kid down the road to do it? How much do you offer the kid if that's your choice? The yard that I've got, the size of the yard that I've got right now, I'd probably have to pay at least $50 because it's not small.
Yeah.
I have just under an acre that I've got right now. And I'm never going to pay any. I'm never going to pay anybody. Nope. I'm way too cheap.
Me neither.
To do that.
Look at you. You know my answer.
That's my cheap point. Like I buy I bought a new riding mower a couple years ago. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, I am never going to not do my own lawn. I can't wrap my mind around paying somebody else to cut my grass. It's something I can do. I can do it. I don't like it, but when I'm out there and I got the headphones in, I'm kind of zoned out. Like when you live in a family of 7, man, like getting out there in the yard is not a terrible place to be. And I do have children who should be doing it. But my wife insists that I do it because she says it's the only thing I do around the house. And if I give that up, then I don't do anything.
And what are you going to do?
Right. So It will always be my job. Okay.
All right. So final one tonight. DK, you see 2 bags of money fall off the truck. The first one is labeled University of Michigan football. The second, University of Michigan Children's Hospital. Wow. What are you doing with those 2 bags?
DK, I'm putting both bags back on the truck. I just am. I would feel so guilty. Even if I stole Michigan football money, I would still feel incredibly guilty. Incredibly guilty. That's just me. And it's not because Father David is in the chat.
I'll just say, when we were at Best, this has been several years ago, is when I still went to Best Buy, but we were coming out once.
I don't know. I feel like there's a story there, but I'll let it go.
But there was a big fat, most of the stuff now, it's just like, Costco, you can get it cheaper or whatever.
Okay.
But,
fair enough. Okay.
There was a wallet full of bills,
wow.
Laying on the ground there. And we took it back in. Gave it to the
you're a good person.
Could have easily just walked off with it. Now,
or to take the cash out.
University of Michigan football bag would make me think a little bit. The Children's Hospital bag, that's definitely the football bag.
I know.
Makes you think. There you go. I think DK's in the same boat. I'll give UM the Children's. I'll tell you what. Here's what I would do. I would obviously give University of Michigan Children's Hospital money to the Children's Hospital. I would take the University of Michigan football bag and I would give it to the Children's Hospital in Iowa. Iowa.
Oh, well done.
Yes. The ones where they salute the kids and all that stuff.
I like that. Peyton Manning's hospital in Indy. I think
that's a good one too.
Yep. It's a good one to get after. So yes, I would redistribute. I would not keep for myself. I like that. I'm on board.
Worked it through. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Look forward to seeing you later this week. Vince, thanks again for being here tonight.
Got it, buddy. You got it.
Good time. And we went for a while, but I guess we started off with a long topic.
We did. We did.
Hit the like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Ivy Nation Sports Talk.